Hello, and I want to thank you for joining this mini-series, What Would Clutch Do? I have compiled a list of about 100 questions. Considering the value of time, it makes sense to divide up these questions and cover each section. We will attempt to limit the time to less than 2 hours. Any questions left over will be picked up in the next session. So I hope to see everyone in the future live streams. The sections are Fun Start, Birth of a Bricklink Store, Daily Logistics, Honest Advice, and Looking Forward. The goal of this series is to compile an ebook that will become the starting point for any Bricklink seller to read before they start a Lego aftermarket business. BrickTsar would not be the only Bricklink seller to be showcased in a forthcoming ebook. However, he will be among the distinguished few to share his experiences in building a Bricklink store. I'm also looking for sellers of various size and experience. It would be interesting to see how sellers evolve their internal processes as they develop better practices to slinging bricks. If you're interested in doing so, look for my email in the description below and give me a contact. I would encourage anyone to give BrickTsar's store a visit at BrickTsar.com. Now let's go ahead and continue our conversation. But first, I want to thank Joseph for taking time out of his day to contribute to this project.
You're welcome, Richie, and I appreciate you having us on. I'm enjoying doing this collaboration with you.
Awesome. And I really do thank you again. I don't think I could thank any of you guys enough for participating. This kind of research is not easy. It's very time consuming, especially when you have to factor in negotiating times to do these things and all the other things I have to do for research to build this. Just for everyone's notice, and I'll put this on the live TV, I expect the research to take about 6 months and maybe another 6 months to compile the book itself. So don't expect to see the ebook before next year. But with that said, let's continue the conversation on how Joseph had his journey that led him to build his Bricklink store. My focus of this interview is to dive into some of the deeper questions in logistics and points that every Bricklink seller should know before starting their own store. Now, previously we covered Fun Start, Birth of a Bricklink Store, and Daily Logistics. The following two sections are Honest Advice and Looking Forward. Now, in the previous session, we had a little section where I wanted to follow up before we get into Honest Advice. Previously, Joseph, you mentioned something about a business model where you could buy Lego, review it on YouTube, and then perhaps donate it as a tax write-off, as opposed to just simply selling bricks as a different kind of business model. It sounds to me something that Jane Bricks does, as well as, I don't know, maybe Brick Builder himself may do. Could you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, this is just a theory that I have, and that what I've seen from the social media posts, the ones like that doing that, because when you review the volume that they review, you can't store it all. You can't keep all that if you're not selling it, and selling it takes so much time. You can't do. It's too many hats to have. But when you buy something for your YouTube channel, that's a tax write-off, the expense, and then when you donate it, that's another tax write-off. So I think that's the most efficient way for people that are doing videos that are actually making money. Now, in order, let's say you're reviewing something as small as a $10 set, you're going to have at least 10,000 views on that video, and most of us don't get anywhere close to that on a single video, so it really wouldn't be feasible for the average person. But I think that's, in the end, if I was to that point, that's probably what I would do. It'd be a lot quicker and easier than actually trying to sell the set, even a complete set, let alone the individual pieces like we do.
Oh, interesting. It's a business model I hadn't really considered, had not considered yet, I should say. But something we could definitely explore later, perhaps, maybe when I get to, I don't know, maybe I can get Jane Bricks to talk with me at some point. But that may be a while way off. I don't know. But tell you what, let's go ahead and jump into the honest advice section
Okay.
and shift gears just a little bit, and let's kind of go into what your thoughts are for how do you at all target specific set purchases to fill in inventory holes, or do you have any other kind of strategy for your inventory?
Well, I see the value in doing that. Maybe looking at what things will hold their value better or increase better, which tends to be licensed themes like superheroes. But I don't try to keep specific types of parts or even minifigures in my inventory. It's just whatever I got, that's what I sell. But if you're going to do this as a business, and this is something that you're looking for it to be an income, you can't just go and buy 100 Chima sets on clearance, because you're not going to sell them all. You're better off paying full price, maybe for some hot superheroes like the Batman. And I don't know if I haven't gone back and watched Clutch talk about this, but I know that he has found that things sell better when they're right in the store. So if you're doing this as a regular business, sometimes it is better to get the newest sets and part them out, get those minifigures in the store as soon as possible while the price is high, because that's what happens with collectibles sometimes. When they're new, people will buy them up at a higher price, and then gradually the price settles down. So
He did actually mention that. He said there's a short window to sell CMFs at the highest possible value, but that quickly depreciates within a few weeks of its release. So if you want to take advantage of that window, and you're doing solely that, then you're spending a lot just to get, like, if you want to get it early, then you have to have your contacts and you got to spend more to do that. But of course, for those people, there's a special market out there that will want that as soon as it's out. They just want it, or if they can, they'll pay even more to get it before everyone else gets it. So there is that type of person out there, and some sellers like to cater to them.
Yeah, that's what he does. And and I think a seller that does that, they need to make sure they're open to international selling, not just selling to only the country they live in, because that's the ones that are going to buy the bulk amount.
Oh, absolutely. I could tell you, being someone who lives in Japan, if your store was open to me and I could buy from you, I guarantee I'm not going to spend anything less than $200 in your store. I mean, that's what I've done for Clutch. You can ask Mr. Bear Bricks, TMX. I just put an order in his store for about 300 US. So, I mean, if your store is open internationally, you'll get me to buy.
Yeah, that's good.
So, moving on here a little bit, let's say, hypothetically, Doc Brown showed up in his DeLorean time machine, took you back to the year 2000. What would you have told your younger self?
Don't sell those UCS sets right away. This is a true story. I worked for a phone company, and I had gone by a Target at 8 o'clock in the morning when they first opened, and they had just marked down their clearance section to 75% off. And back in those days, I think it was, I want to say that they've changed the day. I think Wednesdays was when Target would mark things down. And I just went there to see what was there, and they had tons of the TIE Fighter, the Advanced TIE Fighter, the original UCS X-Wing fighter, the first Millennium Falcon. These were $100 sets, and now they were $25. And I was like, oh. Man. So I went and got a buggy, and I bought them. I bought as many as I could fit. Probably could have bought more then. And I said, man, that was a great deal, $25 for a UCS set. And then I turned around and sold them for $100. And so I made 4 times, you know, well, you get time to take fees and everything.
Well, it's 300% profit, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but should have held on to those a little longer. And there's a lot of sets from that time period, from 99. There was 2099 was an interesting time because a lot of people hadn't got into eBay yet. So you were able to go to stores that had clearance and just there'd be tons of clearance and people weren't buying it up. So I had access to a lot of deals back then, whereas the more that people learn about the deals, the more there's competition, and it is harder to find a deal. In fact, the last couple of years, I don't even really look that much anymore because I know the sellers that live by me, they're going to hawk in there and get the stuff, you know, right. They're going to be in the store at 8 o'clock when the markdowns go, and they're going to, you know, that stuff, most stuff's going to be gone. But going back to, it's funny that you picked the year 2000 because that was a kind of a golden age of opportunity. And I did make money on the things that I sold because I sold them on eBay back then, and kind of wish I did hold on to them a little longer.
Well, I chose that year is because that's the year you started selling Lego, at least from eBay. Yeah. And then 4 years later, I believe, you started on Bricklink selling. So I just thought it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts would be if you had the opportunity to go back to your younger self and say, hey, don't sell this this year from 2007. Don't sell that set either.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Hindsight is always 20/20 with this stuff. There's things I probably wouldn't have bought, and then there's things I would have definitely bought multiples of. And you know, like in 2003, when those NBA sets came out, and then Lego, I don't even know if they had it a full year. I remember buying those things for like $1. The 3-packs of the NBA characters, and you could put them on eBay for 99 cents, and they would never sell. And this went on for years and years. And now that you can get like $30 or more for one of those sets, so you just don't know when something's going to become popular. Or if it even go up exponentially like these things. Like I didn't know the cafe corner was going to be worth so much one day. I would have bought more. I would have held on to the grand carousel, things like that.
Well, perhaps this gives more merit to Clutch's policy of everything eventually sells. You might say you don't have 20/20 future sight, but hindsight. If you have it and you believe everything eventually sells, you might be surprised when something suddenly becomes popular.
Yeah, and the good thing is with Lego, and it's still like that. I mean, the seller market hasn't saturated it so much that it's become a problem like in other hobbies, like the comic books and baseball cards. But it'd be hard. You'd have to really make some poor choices to buy stuff and not sell it for a profit later. You just have to make some really bad choices. It's hard not to make a profit.
So let's say going back to when you were unloading all of your comic books and when you decided, okay, let's just go full time with Lego instead. What would you say will qualify as a strong start to a Bricklink store? Would you say, from capital point of view, you need 10 grand or more, or how would you start and qualify a strong start?
That's a tough one. You got to have quantity to have a Bricklink store. I know as a buyer, I mean, I've placed way more orders than I have actually sold probably over the years. And I know what I look for when I go into a store. And usually, say I'm looking for some particular parts to either finish a set or make something, or my son needs something for his mocks. There may be a store that has the piece at a cheaper price, but they only got that one piece or a group of those pieces. They don't have everything I need. So I'll usually end up going to the sellers that'll have more to fill out the list of things I'm looking for, even if the price is a little more. So that's why you got to have variety or the quantity. You can't part out one of every set you got and then that's going to be enough, because people aren't going to want one by one plate. You know, they're going to want 100 one by one plates. So 10,000 is a lot. I think you can do it with less if you spend it wisely. It would have to be something that's minifigure intensive, I would think. I did not start with that, but I can tell you that those first years on Bricklink, I didn't sell much. I'd get an order here or there. It was just very random. I had to make sure I checked my email, because you'd go so long without getting an order, you didn't want to miss the order when it did come. But you know, I didn't have 10,000 pieces in my store. So that just depends. And two, if you're going to be selling sets instead of the individual piece, then you're probably going to end up having to wait longer. So if you invest a lot of money in sets, you could be sitting for a year or more before stuff actually really starts selling. And so it depends on what type of store you're going to have. You're going to be focused on sets, focused on minifigures, focused on just parts. But I think 5,000 would be enough to get a store that gets people into it. I've seen a lot of people in the YouTube community that said they would never start a Bricklink store. And two of them, one was A-File Man and one was Bricks for Chris, and they both had pretty good stores. A-File Man still has his. Bricks for Chris, his got so big he's like, he didn't want to deal with it anymore. So he handed it off to somebody. He gave the inventory to another seller. But so it can be done in a relatively quick amount of time if you have a good strategy to it.
I wonder if you say he handed it off. I wonder if he's a member of Clutch's Fulfilled by Clutch program. I'm not sure.
I know he's bought a ton from Clutch over the years. But he set out to just make his store big because he could. He wasn't working at the time, I think. He was working part-time. He was waiting for this other job to come open that he wanted. And he got a good source for parts relatively cheap. And he just started adding those parts, and more he added. At the end, he was working all day long. He spent his entire day picking orders. I mean, and he'd work late, and he said it was just too much work. That's how busy his store got. When you get in over 1 million pieces, you're going to start getting several orders a day. When I got over 100,000 pieces, it's like I was surprised if I go a day and I didn't get an order. When I got over 100,000, then as long as you're adding parts, you'll still get people into the store. But it's like it got kind of slow here for a while, then all of a sudden, boom! You'll get all these orders all at once, and so I guess there's no guarantee that everything will sell. But if you price it
true. Right. You just mentioned how after certain levels of inventory, like at 30,000, maybe 60,000, 90,000, maybe 200,000 parts, you start to see a different wave of customers come into your store. Would you say that's true?
Oh, definitely. Especially when I started doing multiples, like 10 or more of a set, 20 or more of a set. That's when you start getting the Brick Manias and the Loot Crate people buying from you. So you get certain regulars that they'll buy. Like we just sold. I had one lot we shipped today. It was 423 of one piece. That was all it was. 423 pieces. This one piece, and that was one of those. It happens to me all the time. I'll sell something. I'll be thinking of getting something. My son was like, "We need to build that Hauser roller coaster because there's a roller coaster that this guy Hauser on YouTube makes using Technic pieces." And I said, I think I got some of those pieces in my store. Yeah, and that's what those were. They were these little pieces. They're little
the pin connector,
round cylinder pieces. Yeah, you put a pin and you can make loops and curves. And he bought 423, every one that I had, except for these used ones here sitting on the table. And I was like, oh, I should have took them out of the store. But that's, yeah, you'll sell to people that are either making their own mocks that they sell, customs that they sell, or they're building a really big mock or something like that. Or the other fun thing to do is when they buy a bunch of pieces is like try to figure out what retired set they're trying to assemble. I don't have as many of the pieces anymore, but you could always tell when people were trying to piece together the cafe corner or one of the other modular sets, because they would get a lot of pieces that were in that set when they would do their order.
So you mentioned 5K or $5,000 would be a good start. Is that just inventory, or does that also include your infrastructure like office space and insurance and what have you?
Yeah, well, it depends on, do you live in a house or you live in an apartment, I guess. If you have this, see, I'm coming up from my perspective where I already had the space, so I didn't have to invest money to set aside for the space. And I didn't start off buying a lot of containers in the beginning. Trying to come up with a number for like what you need for your the things that you're going to need, like your packing envelopes, your tape, labels for the shipping labels. Do you already have a laser jet printer for printing your labels? You could easily get to around $1,000 just on those types of things. The baggies. Are you going to use baggies, or are you going to use Aerolite containers to store stuff? I mean, but I think in the beginning, if your inventory is small, as long as you know where everything is, you can I'd recycle. Recycle things. Use old Lego boxes. Use old Lego bags. I mean, we still pack orders. We're using the plastic bags that are inside the Lego. We just put the pieces in there and tape them. It saves me from buying a Ziploc or something like that. So find creative ways to use things. And then as your store grows, then you can look at buying more quantity of different things. I'll buy my envelope 1,000 at a time because it's cheaper that way, the small mailing envelopes. But as somebody who's just starting out, you're probably not going to want to buy 1,000 envelopes because it'll take you years and years and years before you'd even need that many. But you wouldn't. Also, I wouldn't recommend going to Walmart and buying them because you're going to pay way too much for things like that. So think about what you might need, and the cheapest you can get those things without buying too much at the beginning. And I don't think you could easily do all that under 1,000, I think.
Okay, so let's say we wanted to devote whatever our income capital is just to buying sets. How many sets would you recommend? 1,000? 500?
Well, problem with that now, if 1,000 sets would be, depending on how much they cost, that's going to be a lot. I guess I couldn't put a specific number in it, but I would, instead of buying a bunch of different sets, I would think about what is going to be, you feel will be popular or more easy to sell. So, for instance, there were two. If you're going to be parting out sets, there's two sets that are $30 right now. The Penguin Arctic roller set and the Riddler's car. If I was going to choose between those two sets, I would buy the Riddler's car because it's got 5 minifigures in it, versus the Penguin's car, which I think it's got 3 or 2. I can't remember. The Joker. The Penguin's car. Penguin's car's only got like 2 or 3 minifigures. The Riddler's one's got like 5. So those minifigures are going to sell a lot quicker than the parts will. So you think about things like that when you buy. What is the value of the set? I'll give you an example. When the maze set, I was going to grab it. It's sitting right there. My son's got the the maze. I'm pointing at it. Nobody can see it. I'm sorry. I do that all the time. That set was like, it was worth over $300 in the part out value because it had a lot of parts that people wanted, and it still got a good part out value. I would look at that. So, and then buy multiple quantities. And when you buy a set, you look at it and go, are there pieces in here that somebody could use in a mock? So just because it's a set may have a part out value that's 3 times what you're paying for, it doesn't mean all those parts would be something that somebody would want. So you got to have a strategy. 500 is a lot of sets. I think you could start and actually get traction in your store with 100 sets. I don't think you have to get, to me, that's a massive, massive, massive quantity, 500. If you buy 100 Chima sets, you're not going to be selling stuff. You buy 100 Ninjago sets, you might not be selling. They'll sell better than the Chima will, but you're better off buying 100 Lego Batman or 100 Marvel superheroes, any other DC superheroes, or something like that. Or you're better, like the Beatles set. You'd be better off buying 50 Beatles sets than, I don't know, a bunch of Friends.
Okay. Now, I know as a hobby seller, you're not so much interested in trying to make a significant profit. If it happens, well, then that happens to be coincidental and lucky. But my question then becomes, if you were to start out from scratch, and let's say you started out with the suggestion of 5K, how long do you think it would take before you reached a break-even point? In other words, you would buy so many sets, and then after a certain time, you could buy those same number of sets again.
In my mind, I'll play these little games. Like, can I do the double routine? Like, start with $100, buy $100, sell it for $200. Then you got $200. Take that $200, you buy $200 worth, and then you sell that for $400, and you just keep doubling. It's like, how can I do that in a year? And it's like, it seems feasible sometimes, but it does take time to sell things, especially to get a good price. When I look at what I sell in a year, I sell about, I think I sell about 10% of my the value of my inventory in a year. But again, I don't know that I'm a good model to look at as far as that goes, because I price things where I could lower my prices and have more sales. I don't overcharge. I do go with the average, but if I know if I lowered my prices to below average, I would get a lot more sales than what I get. But I don't want us to be working all the time doing this. So I'm sure somebody like Clutch, they probably do sell more than 10% of their inventory in a year. So you might be doing the math, thinking, oh, that might take 10 years. No, it wouldn't take. I don't think it would take that long. It'd be because I would say 2 years. You should be above water, unless you're just reinvesting everything back into the business. But yeah, I don't think the way the things, they discontinue stuff so quickly now. Where in years past, I know growing up, sets would be in the stores for at least 3 years. Now they may be in the stores for 6 months or a year, and then they're gone. Except for a few sets, for some reason, they like to keep in forever. But that helps in the resale market, because as soon as something's discontinued, that's when it's going to go up in value.
So while we're talking about best start and fast start, what do you believe is the best for a so-called fast start of a store? Would you say small variety but large quantity, or vice versa, small quantity but good variety?
Again, it depends on what those things are. It can't just be random variety. It can't just be random large quantity. I mean, I could have 1,000. I do have 600 Nabu Planet Spheres. There's not going to be a demand for those. So if it's I would say a quantity over variety. If the quantity is things that people would actually want. So parts that can be used to build buildings or nature scenes, those types of things I think would be good to have in quantity. Anything that people can make rocks or ground or trees or bushes, those types of things, or bricks for buildings. So like the odd colors, often like the pinks and the purples and the friends type colors for buildings aren't going to sell as quickly as the browns, the grays, the blacks, and the whites, and things like that. But so if I was going to go quantity, I would lean towards sets that had those types of pieces. If I was going to go variety, I might lean towards having a variety of minifigures. So sets that you can get a lot of minifigures. And I know what a lot of people do is they'll get those sets and start selling the minifigures right away and then worry about the parts later. And that's another strategy that people can do. Find sets that the minifigures is where all the value of the set is. And you can sell those and then worry about, dealing with the parts at another time. But I always find it personally with my store, the big orders end up being those parts that can be used for buildings. Your tiles, your modified plates. When I say the modified plate, it's the jumper plates, the one that has the studs on the top of them, like a single stud. Those types of things, they'll sell in a lot more quantity than I don't know, a lot of other weird parts.
Okay. All right. So, in your opinion, at what point does a store become more attractive to larger audiences with larger budgets?
When they got a lot of pieces. I look at some of the bigger stores in the U.S. That have in the millions of pieces, and I've bought from a lot of them when I need stuff, but their prices are higher, and they can afford to charge higher prices because they're going to have the quantities of things that people want. So that's another advantage. You don't want to gouge people, and I don't think any of these stores do. But if you're a really, really, really big store and you got tons of tiles and bricks and things that people really want, then that's going to be attractive. That's why these stores get so much traction, is because they got a lot of things. I get the question sometimes from people, and they're like, "Oh, I just opened my Bricklink store and I don't have nobody's bought anything yet." And you go to the store and they got 1,000 pieces. Well, nobody wants anything. I think the only people, and I have bought a lot from people that had very little. In fact, there's been a couple of stores I almost bought their entire inventory when I went to their store. Actually, there's two that I bought their entire inventory because I went there because they had a rare item that I wanted, and then their prices were so good on everything else. I just bought it all. But they didn't have a lot. They had a couple hundred pieces at the most, and that's where, if you're going to have a small store, it better have some rare stuff. Because people will go to a store to buy one piece if it's something rare. And usually the only thing that's going to be rare in modern stuff is going to be collectible minifigures, not pieces, because pieces they remake, unless it's pieces to the Millennium Falcon.
Or if it happens to be I forget the mask, it's one of the Bionicle masks they made out of actual gold. You happen to have that in your store?
No. Yeah, so you had Mr. Gold, you could put him in there for $2,000. He would eventually sell.
Okay.
That's all you need, that one piece.
So what advice would you give to anyone thinking to start an aftermarket Lego business?
Don't come into it expecting to make a lot of money. Come into it because you love doing it. And then if you love doing it and you do it the right way, you will make money. But I think I've seen a couple of people that kind of got over their heads trying to get into this thing. Some people, well, here's the number one thing. If you're new, but you love Lego and you want to have a Bricklink store, don't go buying used lots. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make is they say, "Oh man, I got this massive lot. It was only $100. It's like 10,000 pieces." No, you'll be sorting forever. You'll then have to deal with quality issues. You'll sell to people and then be like, "Well, this has got all kinds of nicks on it," and you'll have to describe everything that you sell, and so it's just not a hassle. So yeah, that would probably be my number one thing. Don't go into the used market thinking it's going to be around real quick.
Okay, so what risk would you highlight to everyone who wants to resell Lego? I mean, you just mentioned don't sell used lots because it's a time sink and you got to really love it. So what other risk would you highlight?
Buying on credit is one. Risk of fire. um, Risk of theft. I mean, I'm talking about me. I have everything with me, but if you're to the point where you got to have a separate store or warehouse, or you got to rent someplace, then you got to worry about, those things. I know we talked about that before about, with the insurance and things, but that's why I like the way I'm doing it, because I can close my store tomorrow and I'm okay. I don't need to sell everything. So if you got in a situation where you needed to sell something to get food for your children, that could be bad. So just don't go overboard in the beginning. Make sure you can afford to buy dinner.
But of course. So I know personally how difficult it can be to separate your mentality between being a collector and being a reseller. The nightmare of managing your inventory. What advice could you offer to a collector who's thinking about running a Bricklink store?
It's a great way to find parts when you need them. I wish I could. My personal inventory was as organized as my store inventory, and I'm actually thinking of using the software. And I actually have started with the sets, and I want to do it with the pieces too, where I can kind of have set locations for my collection, just like we do with the Bricklink store. Like with the Bricklink store, there's not one single item in the store, unless I made a mistake, that I don't know where it is by looking at that item. Everything's there to tell me where it is. If I had that with my personal inventory, that would be great. So I want to use that BrickTsar. This BrickTsar's the same software you use for Bricklink. You can use the same to make a big file for your personal collection. I actually started with some old sets that I had, and with the BrickTsar, I can put what if I'm missing a piece, or if I have the instructions, if I have the box, I can put all that in the notes, and then just like with Bricklink, I can use the remarks to put the location. So I got to come up with a system of locations. Now the difference with the personal collection is, since like with the parts, you would always be getting those parts. I might do things like have tiles of any type in a location and not worry about necessarily the quantity and things like that. And that way we can have some semblance of organization.
Well, you bring up an excellent point here. You need to be really organized. You need to have your inventory manageable, for that matter. I think Clutch put it best in his Ask Clutch 211 video, where he basically states there must be a very well-defined separation between the two worlds meaning one for your personal collection and one for your store. Would you agree with that?
Yes, they need to be physically separated. That's as much as possible. That's the way mine is, especially when you got kids. I was always worried in the early days my son was going to come and start pulling from the drawers things that he wanted to get out, and then somebody goes and buys it and it's not there. And then I also have to remember, if you do take stuff out, make sure you take it out of your store. But there needs to be separation. And I think Clutch also said something along the lines of not being attached to what you have in your store. You got to be willing to let go of things. If you don't want to let go of it, then you'll agonize over selling stuff. And it's just things. You got to remember, all this is just things. I didn't have all this before. Didn't come into my life with all this stuff, so I'm ready to sell it.
So did you have that problem? I know TMX just said in the previous video that he had initially such a hard time with looking at a part and say, oh man, they're buying this part and I got to give it to them, but this is the part that I think I really want to hang on to a little longer. Did you ever have that kind of problem?
Oh, absolutely. I've had, fortunately, where people didn't buy the entire quantity. I give you three examples. One, what I just mentioned earlier, that the parts that I could use for the roller coaster. That's a part that's cheap enough that if I wanted to get that quantity again, I can go out there today and buy the sets that have it in the largest quantity and part those out and get it. So it's not that big a deal. But Mardi Gras man placed an order from me, and he got one of my it was a little blue spaceman from the Lego games, the failed games set, but it was the little spaceman, had space logo, and it was like this little Benny. And I was like, I didn't even know I had that in my store. I had like 10 of them, and I sold him the one, and then I took all the rest of them out of my store. I didn't want to sell them anymore. And then another example is when I was selling sets, I had 3 of the Emerald Knight sets sealed in my store. And one day I got this $650 order going to Europe, and he had bought all of my Emerald Knights, and I was like, then I went and looked on Amazon, I went and looked on the Lego store, and I'm like, oh my God, they're not selling it anymore. So I sold mine, and then I couldn't buy it again at if I was going to buy it, mine was the lowest, at that time it was the lowest price, I think, on Bricklink. And they sold. And I didn't know that it had been discontinued. So I should have kept up with that. And then my son, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, taking the little mini Benny out of your store might have been fortuitous, considering the next Lego movie I hear is going to be space themed.
Oh, see, you said I knew I should keep those out. It's like there's certain things that I no longer sell anymore. Train tracks. In my store, I don't sell train tracks anymore. There's a lot of discontinued items that I will not sell. I will never sell monorail track. Well, I can't say never. You never can say never. But I don't sell monorail track, train tracks. I don't sell Lego Spacemen of any type other than maybe Galaxy Squad or something. But any classic stuff, I'm holding on to that.
All right. So what would you say are the top 5 biggest pains in running a Bricklink store?
5 biggest pains. And one of the things I don't like dealing with, but I do because there's a value in it, is it is very hard sometimes to ship internationally. It has nothing to do with the people. It's just U.S. Postal Service and PayPal. Not everything on PayPal is available on, or not everything. All the shipping options that U.S. Postal Service offers are available on PayPal. So if somebody places a real small order that'll fit through this little hole in the little test thing they have at the post office, that's cool. You can ship it from PayPal, or if you want to charge the priority mail rate, you can ship from PayPal. But if you want to ship first class, you got to go through the Postal Service website, and it's a little more time consuming doing that. And then shipping to some of the Asians, Japan's not so bad, but oh my goodness, Hong Kong and South Korea, it's like, where do I put all these different names of the, I don't even know if is it the street, is it a city? I don't know what it is. So that can be hard, but I do that because you do get sales from people there, and those are people that'll buying large quantities. South Korea is like, a really big buyer of Lego. I just don't like doing the labels. Another pain is dealing. Unfortunately, with Bricklink, you don't have a lot of problems, but sometimes you get people that are particular about things. So I think people need to understand. There's people out there that need to understand that new doesn't mean it won't have any scratches. Things like that. There's people there's people that get mad because their minifigure was assembled and it's listed as new. I'm like, I don't like to deal with that. Fortunately, it does not happen enough. I think it probably something the big stores run into, so that's why they will not assemble their minifigures. But it's a lot easier for me to keep them assembled, keep all the parts intact and together in a little bag. That is just easier than separate for me. Lately, we've had this problem of fake accounts. The one thing I wish Bricklink would do is I wish they would give you the option of filtering low feedback buyers, meaning not block them, not prevent them from buying, but there's got to be some kind of filter, because these people that were trying to cause some problems, they created fake accounts. One guy created 4 fake accounts and then was placing $300 and $400 orders, and then he placed the order and then immediately leave negative feedback. So you didn't get time to get the invoice and he's already left you negative feedback. And it's like, now if they had some kind of filter, or if you got 0 feedback,
I imagine maybe this is something we should bring up to Bricklink administrators and maybe make a bug report or something. To me, it seems like they should not be able to leave feedback until the status of the order has been shipped.
Yes, I thought that's the way it was. This is the first time it's ever happened, and he's did it 3 times. And I'm like, yeah, usually you have to, and like, if you have a non-paying buyer, the way it's always worked before, once you've done the non-paying buyer and they don't respond, they can't leave feedback. And that's the way it should be. But, nobody should be able to place an order and then boom, leave negative feedback. That's crazy. And that's what happened. And I have my filter set where nobody can buy from my store if they have negative feedback. So I got real quick. As soon as he was leaving me negative feedback, I was reporting him, leaving him negative feedback. That way, if other people had their filter set, able to place these bogus orders. And he left all the negative feedback got removed. I mean, I still have 0 negative feedback, and all the other people that got the negatives, those got removed. But it was just dealing with the hassle of all that, having to report them, and it was time wasted that nobody needed to waste. It shouldn't be that easy for people. Oh, here's the other thing. The addresses were not even real addresses. So that shouldn't even be possible. So I think that's another thing the admin should do. And I don't know how you verify it, but like the city didn't match the zip code. And then, of course, there were other things with the address that made it obvious it was a fake address. But I would like to see at some point Bricklink do something where you got to have some kind of verified address. Like I know with some things. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you have your PayPal attached to the account, they should be able to say, hey, your PayPal is verified. That means your address on PayPal is verified. Why not do that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, there's not a lot. I mean, other than maybe having space tied up in your house, if you haven't had, I don't have a lot of negatives that I can really I don't get stressed out about the store. I don't get stressed out about orders. Even when we get those big orders, it take a long time.
Well, you've mentioned time management is a pain. And you were just talking about dealing with certain customers who, as I like to call them, undesirable customers. And I suppose...
Maybe...
Go ahead.
It is monotonous work parting out sets. I mean, that's not necessarily fun. And then if you get I see the value of people having lot limits on their items. I don't have lot limits in my store because it's not really been a problem, but my wife thoroughly hates the orders that are 400 parts and 190 lots. Those take forever to pick, and then it's a $12 order, you know. Takes you an hour to pick it, and so that's why stores have lot limits, or the average lot's got to be, you know, so many cents or $1 or whatever. It's just because yeah, you'll get one of those orders that takes you 2 hours to pick, and it's not worth the 2 hours picking it. I had the one guy that thought he was doing me a favor. He bought a lot of different things. He had a big order, but he would leave like 1 or 2 pieces in each lot. I was like, man, I wish he had just bought the whole lot.
Yeah, that's a pain, because now you got to make sure that. Well, I can imagine that would be a pain, because now you got to make sure that the number he bought is actually what you're giving him.
Yeah, and my wife, she counts everything twice anyway. So she's doing the work now, but it's cheap labor. So
she does that by hand.
Yes, she will count. I've tried to tell her. I'm like, with some of these things, it's like, as long as we know we've counted right before, it's like, I'd rather you just go ahead and give them all the pieces there. If there's too many, that's great. If there's not enough, and they let us know, we'll make good on it. So,
well, I'm thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that if you had a weight scale, then that would be your way of double checking and confirming your counts. But if you're doing it by hand, oh my!
I'm not to that point of getting a weight scale. I know that's what a lot of the big stores do, especially if you're dealing with quantity. But it hasn't got to that point. I mean, I was down here, I was filming a video, and my wife was picking that order, and she counted it twice in like no time. I mean, but yeah, it would have been, in the old days, I didn't even count them. I'll be honest. If it was all of the lot, I just gave them the whole drawer. And I'm glad my wife counts them, because she has found a few times where it's missing one piece. And then I'll go and get that one piece from somewhere else. And I've not yet run into the problem where I couldn't find it in my personal inventory to ship it, but she has caught mistakes. But there have been far less mistakes. All the mistakes pretty much in the store have been on my end, not on my wife's end. She's pretty good. And I think that's the value of counting. But again, I'm not generally dealing with the quantities that other people are. So, you know, if you're selling 1,000 of one type of piece, and it's a 1-by-1 tile or something, yeah, you're probably better off having a scale and weighing it just to make sure. And then I think some of the stores, they don't even count them initially at all. They just go by the weight.
Well, yeah.
Those grams are pretty accurate, but I don't have a scale that's that sensitive, I think.
Well, I know I as a collector, I have a scale simply because I found the value, especially one time when I bought somewhere around 12,000 dots, those 1-by-1 round plates for a river scene. It's like, well, okay, I can count these out by hand and waste my week, or I could spend maybe half an hour and just go through a scale. Put it into a bucket, weigh that, and just add it all up.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a margin of error, I think that's why Lego puts extras of all of those pieces, all your 1-by pieces, like the dots you were talking about. They always put an extra in each bag that has that piece, and I think it's their margin of error thing is what I'm thinking, because.
Well, I suspect it's more than a margin of error. Those little tiny pieces are really easy to lose, even when you just open the bag.
That's true. Yeah, and they put them on in the end of little missiles and stuff, and there's little tiny guns that you can shoot. That's the point, is to shoot those studs. I was like, you're guaranteed to lose that piece.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, you just mentioned one mistake would be sometimes you make a mistake in counting your lots. Could you highlight two of your worst mistakes in running your store?
There's no worse mistake than shipping to the wrong person. I've done this, and I am so paranoid about that. I've done it. I did it on eBay once, and I've done it on Bricklink, and that's a sick feeling, especially if it's international. And and then the other thing is shipping the wrong item. Back when I didn't have locations, where I just had to know where everything was in my mind, and I had similar parts, like I had all the modified bricks were all in one drawer. All right, so I knew if somebody had a modified brick, okay, this is the modified brick drawer. And he had bought, a guy had bought like 100 of these bricks with like a clip or something on the side, and I got the wrong one. There was another similar looking brick, but I shipped him all of those, and it was the right quantity, but it was the wrong item. He got it, and he said, you know, everything else was fine, but you sent me this. I didn't order this. I ordered this. And I'm like, and then I looked in the drawer, and fortunately, nobody had bought those. So I went and got those and shipped them again. So I ended up, you know, I didn't even make anything on that by the time you pay for the shipping again. But he was like, do you want me to send those back? And I'm like, no. You just every time I've made a mistake and sent somebody the wrong item, I've always, if I still had the item in stock, shipped them the item and then said, you know, you keep the wrong item. But that was the worst one because it was international. But yeah, shipping to having 2 orders and shipping them to the wrong people, that's not good, because then you gotta either say, well, you keep that and I'll try to get the things and ship the right thing. And you don't want to make somebody say, hey, can you take that? I know it's the wrong order. Can you ship this? And usually people are cool on Bricklink. Most people, if you make a mistake, they understand and they'll work with you. But it is embarrassing. But we got a little system now where we write everything on the envelope and we double check and make sure the address on PayPal matches, because sometimes people will still have an address that doesn't match on PayPal to Bricklink, and I always verify, because I have shipped it and the guy's like, where's my package? And then it shows delivered. And I say it's delivered, and he said, oh, I don't live there anymore. And I said, well, that's the address you gave me.
Ouch. So I was just thinking, from a business point of view, would it not be more effective to say, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong part. How about I just give you a refund for that part and you can keep the parts that I mistakenly gave you? Would that not be more efficient from a business point of view?
Well, that's what I do. Because sometimes you're going to have mistakes to where you can't send them what they ordered. Like you made this mistake and you don't have it. I always give people options. I thought, do you want a refund? Do you want, I have these parts, I can send them. I mean, I've sent as few as like 2 or 3 pieces to fix an order. I'd rather make good on it and it costs me more and the customer be happy. I always try to, that's what I love about the 99% of the Lego community is everybody is so cool when you make a mistake. They don't get all bent out of shape and immediately. The one neutral feedback is a person who I think I did make a mistake. They left me neutral feedback, but they never contacted me. It's like, dude, I might even gave you the whole amount of your order back, but you didn't even bother to contact me. So once you've left the feedback, I'm done. Like some people will still work with you, but it's like you left me neutral. And you didn't give me an opportunity to make good on it. Yes, I made the mistake, so I can't really say anything. I just like to have that opportunity, and I would rather lose money on a transaction, but have somebody that's a potential to be a repeat customer, or at least that person is happy.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done.
I think that's an excellent point. You're effectively saying it's a cost of doing business with the hope of a repeat customer. Well, I can't help but admit, from a business perspective, it might be more efficient, more effective to say, okay, I'm sorry, but let me give you the refund for the parts that I didn't give you. The parts that I did give you, keep those. From a time perspective, it's a lot easier. And from just a management perspective overall, it's easier. But then again, you risk losing that customer. So is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's, and maybe I'm not a I was not born, or I'm not a natural born entrepreneur. Uh, I've always done these. I've always done things this way on eBay and um, on Bricklink. It's like I, I want to respond as fast as I can, ship as fast as I can, ship it in a manner that's going to arrive to the customer the way I had it described to them. So, it's packed well and things like that. And then if I've done something that causes that item not to get there in the condition that they're expecting, I will make good on it. I've repeatedly on eBay, I've given people all their money back. I've had people send me stuff back. I've paid to have it sent back. But I've only hit, it's funny. Is also I'm always kind and always understanding of their complaints, and then you will get occasionally, very, very, very rare on Bricklink, more so on eBay, you'll get people that'll try to scam you, and that's where the returns come in. Like I had the guy that said that I sent him 2 sealed Star Wars sets, and I showed where they were delivered, and then a week later, he said, my boxes are wet. They're ruined. The boxes are ruined. And I said, I think they were on your porch for a week. I even checked the weather to see what the weather was like at his house when it came. It's like the packages came and he never got them off of his porch. And he wanted me to refund him. And I was like, I think these were delivered when it wasn't raining. And then he dropped it. But be honest with you, in reality, there was probably nothing wrong with those boxes. I think he was just trying to fish for a partial refund, because he dropped when I called him out on it. He dropped it, and I never heard from him again. And the people like that, I don't care if you're going to be a repeat customer. I don't want to deal with people that are trying to hassle me or get something at a discount by making up some kind of fake story. It happened a lot on eBay. The thing with eBay, and it can happen on Bricklink if you're selling sets, is they'll say it came and it's damaged, you didn't pack it. Easiest thing to do is say, well, send me a picture of it so I know what happened and I can correct this mistake in the future. Never, ever, ever has anybody ever sent me the picture and said, oh, never mind, I can deal with it. Because they were lying.
That's despicable.
Yeah, it happens though. But that's why I like selling on Bricklink versus selling. I can sell Lego on eBay and probably get more money for certain things, but you're dealing with a higher quality of buyer on Bricklink. That's what I love about Bricklink. You're dealing mostly with adults, mostly with people who know what they're dealing with, and you're not dealing with amateurs or parents that don't know anything, and then I like Bricklink.
Right. I could completely agree with you there. Bricklink has such a barrier to entry that your soccer moms are unlikely to be common Bricklink buyers, and you're less likely, although it's possible, to have kids be your buyer. So it is kind of nice having that little barrier there.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to kind of go back to, we were talking about the type of person you would recommend to be a Lego reseller, and I couldn't help but think that I have a pet peeve as a buyer myself. One of my biggest pet peeves is smoking. So one of the things I put in my comments, at the very top of my comments, I put, if you are a smoker, please cancel this order. It's not because of your lifestyle choice. It's because I don't want to be included with the smell and the hassle of dealing with contaminated parts.
Yes. And there are a few Bricklink sellers that are heavy smokers, apparently, or either their lots have come, because I have gotten out. There's a couple of I can't even tell you which one. There are a couple of videos I've done where I've unboxed my haul from Bricklink, and it's like, you're like, whoa, this is bad. But I've not. It's not been to the point. I mean, I got good deals, and it's what I want, and I can wash it. That's the way I view it. So, I think that any seller that does have different things and that might affect people like that, they need to disclose that before they even sell. They need to have that in their store terms. I am a smoker. Your parts may smell like smoke. Don't
Oh,
sell
I
it.
agree. I agree. I really wish it did that. Unfortunately, one seller I recently bought from, I had an order that was close to $400 or something out of Italy. And well, their terms didn't say any one of them smoked. I received the order like 3 weeks later, and it smells of smoke. And I'm like, well, what happened here? Turns out the employee who packs it all smokes.
Oh wow! I wonder if that's what's happened to me because I've actually got some orders from Italy that had smoke. I wonder if it's the same seller. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but for me, I don't want to spend 6 months decontaminating smoke because Lego is made of ABS plastic, and the B part of ABS is what absorbs the smoke. And unless you happen to have a special vacuum compartment, a compartment that you can use a vacuum chamber in, and literally suck it out, you're going to spend 6 months to 6 years before it's completely decontaminated.
Wow.
And I just simply don't have the time nor the patience to deal with that. So, at my expense, I spent another $100 to ship it back to them.
Wow.
So to me, it's a big pet peeve. And I look at it this way. If I'm going to have Lego that, I want to give to my kids, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs except for alcohol, whatever, but that's not going to contaminate my Lego. So if it's something I want to give to my kids, it's something I want that if they swallow it, they bite it, they chew on it, whatever, it doesn't matter. It must not be contaminated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another reason not to get into selling used Lego because that's it's going to be contaminated. It's going to be contaminated from pets, from smoking, from the environment, from dirt. I mean, from all kinds of things. It's amazing. I opened this is not a Lego product. We opened a Mega Bloks set that I've had for like 4 years that we just now opened it. It had a hair in it. A new sealed set had a hair inside the bag. And I was like, that's another thing that when you buy your Lego from people, you don't want to get human hair or pet hair in it. But I think that that could happen to anybody. Like my wife picks my orders, so it's a possibility that one of her hairs has ended up in a bag. Nobody's ever complained about it, so it shouldn't be something that somebody's outraged over it. Do you know that there's a where were we at? I think it was when I went to New York. There was somewhere. I'm trying to remember where I saw this, but it was like the FDA limit for the number of rat hairs that can be in food. It can only be 16 rat hairs per whatever ounces or whatever. And I was like, 16? I don't want any.
Makes you wonder what's actually in the food.
I know. So there's going to be things that happen that people didn't intend to get in there with your order, but it shouldn't be common and it shouldn't be overly noticeable. There shouldn't be an odor to your Lego, but I've bought so much used stuff. It's like, I couldn't go turn around and put it in my store without, checking it but I don't like, I got a few used things. I don't really add used to my store anymore because I don't want to deal with those things. I don't want to deal with the description. I don't want to deal with, it's got little nicks here and there. I don't want to deal with it. Might be slightly discolored or maybe not the same color. Even new bricks.
So it's a pain. I have to say.
And this is another thing I got to start looking at because I was at went to a train show this weekend and my lug was there. get to participate with them. But one of the guys was asking me because he had a mock that he'd only built 4 years ago, and it had a lot of white pieces, and some of the white pieces had browned or yellowed, but not all of them. And it was like it would be the entire piece, so it'd be a piece here, a piece here, a piece here. And he said these were all from the same lot, but they're not all yellowing in the same order. It's like it's like each piece might have been had a different batch that it was made, a different amount of ABS, a different amount of fire retardant. I don't know what's in those pieces. So that made me think, it's like, okay, that was only like 4 years. I got stuff that's been in my store for more than 4 years. So now I got to start thinking, if I have a bunch of white elements or light gray, I got to start checking, because these are new, but they could have sat in my store for so long that they started to discolor. Because it did happen with some blues one time where the blues had discolored, and they were in a sealed box, not exposed to light. So that might be something. I know Clutch is doing, and he moved, and he's doing an audit. He's going to go through and audit his entire inventory, make sure everything's there. So in normal businesses, when I worked in a warehouse, we had to do a audit. I can't remember if it was every quarter or every twice a year, but they would send all the employees, instead of picking orders, we go out and count how many boxes were in the warehouse. And it took all day. That's all you did was count boxes all day long. And it's like probably good for a Bricklink store to do that from time to time. I mean, I know I probably got 4 or 5 lots that are totally missing right now. The only way I'm going to find them is go drawer by drawer until I find them. But I got off topic. Sorry about that.
No, that's completely on topic. I agree. Just like a retail store, whether you're online or not, you still have to know what your inventory is like. You need to check it at least once a year, I would argue. That way you'll know not only that your numbers are correct, but if you have employees, that your employees aren't just simply helping you get rid of your inventory without paying.
Pilfering.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's a good idea to do auditing on your inventory. So moving forward a bit, what would you say are the highs and lows of your Lego business?
It is always fun when you get a really big order, like these orders that you were talking about you placed. When you get one of those $300 or $400 orders, you're like, oh, it's actually kind of exciting. The lows, just knowing sometimes that, yeah, I need to add some parts, but I don't really feel like doing it right now. Or when the drawers start emptying, we got, what we do is we take those drawers out, and we got an area with some boxes. I put the empty drawers, and when they start piling up, like we got a big pile of them now from where we sold stuff the last month or so, and I'm like, I really need to fill those drawers up. I just don't feel like doing it. But they're out of the way, so that's okay. But yeah, it's more of a thrill than what eBay is now. I remember back in the day, eBay was a lot of fun. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed selling on eBay because it was that thrill of watching your items go up in value, or the bids go up in price, and then your item sells. So it's always neat when you get a really neat order, or I don't have the envelope with me. Somebody sent me a money order. I don't get very many money orders at all, but she had little Lego stickers on the envelope. I thought that was so. Sometimes the people are funny, and another thing is when people say something about either the website or my YouTube channel on their order. Say, hey, I like your YouTube channel, and that's why I wanted to order from you on this. And that's pretty neat too. That's fun.
Yeah, actually, I have to admit, that's why when I found you, it's like, I want to go to your store, but at the time you had a policy change, which really prevented me from doing anything there.
Sorry about that. I don't understand where I think I have opened it. I think I won't sell to Russia because I have a grievance with Russia. There's a couple places I won't ship to. I won't ship to China because of all the counterfeiting that's going on in China. I got a few things going on like that, but I think I opened up to Japan. If I'm not, I need to change that.
Well, I'll let you know. Okay. So I know you just mentioned that you don't advise new sellers to get into bulk lots and selling used Lego. How about to someone who thinks they can just buy Lego with the hope of recreating old sets and then just reselling those sets? What would you say to them?
Um, that's basically what I have been for, not for selling them, but um, many years ago when I was trying to get those sets that I wanted from my childhood, or sets that I wanted as a child, I would buy the individual set, and it was expensive because you buy the set and pay for the ship. And then I discovered that I could buy used lots that had multiples of sets, or most of the pieces for multiple sets, and piece together those sets from those lots a lot cheaper than if I went and bought the individual sets. So yes, theoretically, it is a lot cheaper. I mean, massive. It can be massively cheap. I have gotten some super rare sets that way, looking at bulk lots. The problem is it's very time consuming. I was doing this without even having the intention of selling those sets. I was just buying them for me. So I enjoyed going through them and, okay, I need these, only need these few parts left. But if you're going to be doing it as a seller, it might not be as good. But the one thing is, it's kind of weird with a lot of the old sets from before the 80s, that it's still cheaper, or like today, a new set will have a part out value that's like twice what it is to piece that. You know, if you were to piece it together, it costs you twice as much as opposed to buying it to set. But some of these old sets are still relatively inexpensive. So a lot of the old sets aren't really valuable enough, I think, to invest that kind of time in piecing them together. So I would only do that if it's just something you really want to do for fun, not for resale, because it's just not enough of those sets. Now, if it was a really rare set and you had all the rare parts, yeah, I would do that. But that's why they're rare. There's not a lot of them out there.
Right. So overall, from a time perspective, it's not really profitable to really try to do that from a seller perspective.
No. And what I've seen, the only people that have a business model that I think works with the used items is people that buy them at whatever margin and I don't know what they buy them by the pound. So they got a certain dollar amount per pound, and they will wash them and then sort them by color and sell them by color. That's the quickest and easiest way to sell used lots. Is you don't worry about what's in there. You pick out all the garbage, all the clone bricks as you're sorting them, but you can get pretty quick at sorting by color. But that's what they'll do. They'll buy bulk lots, wash them, sort them, and then they can sell those smaller lots of different colors for way more. And there's one guy who lives near me. He's got it. I don't want to do what he's doing, but he sells them for a lot more than what he pays for them. But it's just, I don't know. It's just, that's not as much fun to me, just sorting by color. And yeah. But
So
apparently
have you ever,
do that.
okay. Have you ever gone to a retail store or even to a Lego store and reached their limit on what you could buy from that store?
As an overall limit,
Right.
no. I mean, I've always like run into the problem with the quantity. Like Lego store, sometimes it'll be one or two or five thing, and it's like with the train track. I'm like, why put a limit on the train track? Just make as much as people need, because I don't want to have just a little oval of track. I want more track, but they'll only let you buy 5 at a time. And it's like, when I buy that, I'm not buying it to hoard it. I'm buying it or to sell it. I'm buying it to make a big train layout. So there's certain things I don't understand why they put a quantity limit on it, but I understand that. But I've never had them say, hey, you can't $300. That's the limit. There was one time at the clearance at Target, they thought that they shouldn't let me buy as many as I was buying, but then they went ahead and let me buy it. But I'm totally, and I'll be honest with you. I'll be completely honest. I am completely fine, and I actually encourage not only Lego. What Lego does, they do put the lot limits, but I think sometimes the stores should have lot limits. Maybe not on clearance, but even with that, that was the store's choice to say, hey, you can't buy more than 5 of this or 10 or whatever it is if it's on clearance. I'd be completely fine with that, and it might change a lot of people's business models if Target and Walmart did put limits, because people wouldn't be able to go in and buy the massive quantities that they're getting right now, or they'd have to go to multiple stores to do it. And tell you another thing.
I think that really varies by the region. If you're in the city, then yeah, I can understand having limits on purchases within the city. But if you're further out on the countryside where a store happens to carry a lot of inventory, I would suspect not only would the countryside be cheaper in price, but also have more clearance. And I also suspect, at least from what I see on the seller stream with Big B, is that they're also extremely happy when you come and empty out their store.
Yeah, when I go to a Walmart and they've had the same items on clearance for a year, there was a store they refused. They had marked it down like 10% or whatever, and it's like they refused to mark it down. It's like you'd think they would have been happy to get rid of their inventory. A lot of times the Walmart clearance section starts looking really bad when the stuff sits there for so long. But yeah, that's what I have found. The more rural, I can't say that word.
Rural?
The country stores, you do find more better deals and sometimes more quantity. But the urban stores, now, the urban stores, that's where you find like, whoa, you'll find like tons of stuff. And it's like, because I guess they're not selling anything. And then all of a sudden you'll find a really good deal. I found some really good deals at the urban, like I'm quite close to Atlanta, the big city, that area. But yeah, I've also seen the stores I've seen Target do this, like with the Naboo spheres. One day they got a little section of a few of those, and then the next day they got 600 of them. So it's like somewhere in a warehouse they had an overstock, and they just shipped these out to stores trying to get rid of them. And they're like 75% off. Yes, they want to sell those and get rid of those. I've seen it with the castle. There was a castle, Vladik's Castle, said 8877. I think that's the name of it. One Target store, all of a sudden one day had like 100 of them, and they were $25 a piece. I literally bought as many as would fit in my van. I couldn't buy any more because I didn't have any room. I'd have to take them out of the boxes and flatten the boxes and stuff. I think I got about 20 of them, but I couldn't fit anymore. And I would have bought all of them. And I actually thought, once I got home, I was like, the store was like 30 miles away, and I'm like, do I want to drive back and get some more? And I didn't. And those were gone pretty quick at $25. But yeah, there's sometimes stores get overstocked and they just want to get rid of it, and those shouldn't have limits because they don't want it. But I don't want us as sellers to cause a problem for the community, for the kids, because in the end, Lego is marketed for kids, not for adults, but they do cater to the adult community. They do cater to the AFOL community. But the bulk of their marketing is for the kids. And as long as, if they tell me I can't buy a certain amount, I'm cool with that. But I would tell people never, ever, ever, no matter what store you're at, ever say, oh, I'm buying this so I can resell it. They will ask you, hey, wow, why are you getting this? you got kids at home? I'm like, yes, I got kids at home, but this is for me.
So I know it's real easy as a new Bricklink seller to say, hey, Lego store, there's nothing better than getting it from the source. It's real easy to go to the Shop at Home website and start buying a bunch of stuff. What advice would you give to them to avoid getting the so-called ban hammer?
Yeah, you will get banned. Respect their limits. Don't place too many multiple orders in a day. That's like one time I discovered they were sending free Chima sets with every order. It wasn't only when you went, it didn't tell you that, but when you got the order, you had a free Chima set. So I started placing more orders. Now I got all these Chima sets I don't need anyway. But like usually this is the problem comes when they have the free item, and especially when it's a cool free item that you're going to get. So what you do is you place an order just to the amount to get that free item, and then you place another order, and then another order. If you do like 5 or something, that could be a red flag. So if you are going to do multiple quantities, I would space them out. I wouldn't do a bunch in a day because Lego they don't want to be selling to sellers. I mean, they know that goes on. They know there's Bricklink. They're not trying to shut Bricklink down, but that's not their intent when they have these specials. They want everybody to have an opportunity to get those free items. So I think if you have just be a little modest in what you buy, you won't ever run into that problem. I've never run into that problem.
Well, I know with Lego, you can't actually buy directly from them as a reseller. But first of all, you have to have an open contract as a reseller with them. And they have a lot of rules that you have to abide by to be an official reseller. Not to mention...
like a store.
Yeah, exactly like a store, in fact. You also have to have a minimum number of buy per month of inventory, where you might have to buy, say, $30,000 every month from them. So if you're doing that kind of inventory, then yeah, go ahead. Lego loves you. But if you're doing like what most hobby sellers do, then they're like, well, tell you what, why don't you just buy like everyone else does?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what they do.
So I could tell you, from my perspective, living in Japan, I'm a little disappointed in the selection of Lego stores around. Yes, you could find the Discovery Center, and as of this week, in fact, they just opened a new Legoland in the middle of Japan. But despite that, there's no official Lego stores outside of those particular areas. Like if you want to go to an official Lego store, you have to go to Legoland or you have to go to the Discovery Centers. You won't find any other Lego stores outside that. But there are private Lego stores that are called Quick Brick that will sell Lego products, but it's not an official Lego store, and therefore they don't participate in the VIP points or any of the promotions like that. It's all completely separate.
Yeah, that kind of stinks. And usually the Discovery, I don't know about Legoland, but I know that Discovery Center doesn't participate in the VIP points either. So even you go to at least the Discovery Center in Atlanta, it's like we're going to buy some stuff, and it's like no VIP points, so we just put everything back. It's like there's no point in doing that. So most of the stuff I buy is online anyway, even though we have stores. I usually go to the stores a couple of times or more a year just to look. Do you have any box damaged items I can buy? I don't really want to pay full price, but if I need something from the Pick a Brick, but it's not worth the drive a lot of times to go to the Lego store when I can have them ship it to me for free. Instead of spending the $15 in gas to go to the Lego store, I can just have them ship it to my house. And that's what
That's one thing I wish I could do in Japan.
You do that in Japan?
So in Japan, unfortunately, there's no shop at home website for Japan. You can find it for South Korea, but not Japan.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the Quick Brick company here in Japan. I don't know if there's some kind of exclusivity they have or something, but Lego company does not sell through their website or the shop at home site directly to Japan. And to me, it seems like such a shame. It's a missed opportunity in my eyes. So anytime I order from shop at home website, I have to have it shipped to my mother. And I set up a special PayPal account for my mom where I have money in that PayPal account, and she just uses a PayPal card to pay for the shipping from her house to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the way I get around that. But still, it's a little bit of a pain. And I almost say, well, tell you what, can I get this from Bricklink?
So Lego must not have an actual. I mean, they have. Don't they have a? They don't have a factory in Japan. They got. I'm trying to think. Do they have any Asian? I mean, I think they got a factory in China.
Oh yeah, they have plenty of factories in China, but none in Japan. And the only presence they have in Japan is actually the Legoland and Lego Discovery Centers. Unfortunately, even those are not actually owned and operated by Lego Group. Rather, it's owned and operated by a Japanese group called the Merlin Group or something?
Yeah, the ones here, I know that. Like I said, I don't know about Legoland, but I know with the Discovery Center, they're not owned by Lego. They just got the Lego brand.
Right, right. So it's very similar here, but unfortunately, Japan does not sell directly to, I'm sorry, Lego does not sell directly to Japan, unfortunately. So that's why you might see more buyers from Japan.
I need to make sure I got Japan open. I'm going to be doing that after this.
So, I mean, for me, because of that, sometimes, even though I know it might be cheaper to buy some elements from the Pick a Brick Wall or Bricks and Pieces, even with that, I have to consider, wait, I got to pay my mom to ship it to me as well. And then there goes my cost savings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So while we're talking about customers, let's shift into the looking forward section, our last section. And can you give me an idea of how you would target your ideal customers?
The ideal customer is not a kid. I don't know. It's just I don't really think of Bricklink that way. I don't think of. Again, I'm a hobby seller, so I may be approaching it different. I know, like with Clutch, he wants those repeat customers. He's trying to cater to things that they will need when he's looking for inventory and things to sell, and having discounts for people that come back. I mean, I think that would be a good thing to do, and something I should have been thinking about. But like offering coupons when people buy. I mean, of course, I love having the people that place the big orders. Perhaps I should give incentives, like if you get over this dollar amount, you'll get a % discount. That may be a way of drawing that, because that is actually the. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but yeah, I don't like the. I'm not. I shouldn't say I don't like. It's the store minimum orders. Those are the ones that are. Yeah, I'd rather have a larger amount of pieces in an order. So if I did things to cater to those people, that would probably make running the store a little easier. But I also know what it's like on the other end as a customer when I just want a few pieces. I had another order I did recently where they had one piece that I wanted. They had a store minimum, so I had to reach the store minimum to get that, because he had the only piece in all of Bricklink for sale of that one piece that I wanted, and and the thing was, his prices were so good. I had to buy a lot of pieces to get to the store minimum, but it actually helped because it was some good deals. But I don't want to be a seller to say I'm only going to cater to the big buyers. I want to, the little guys too. So I
Okay.
keep it open to everybody.
Well, I understand it's hard to get super excited about the small orders. That's understandable. So one of the things I might suggest that you're doing to target your customers is the type of inventory you're having in your store. If, for example, like I think they're called Technique Panda, they target specifically people who deal with technique models and what have you. They rarely have much outside of technique pieces in their store. So you could say that's one way how you're targeting your ideal customers.
Yeah, yeah. If you got a specific type of item, that's where having a variety can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing. Maybe if you focus more on one genre, like if you're going to be a Bionicle store, you pretty much that's all you're going to have is Bionicle, because that's like two different worlds. It's like almost like Bionicle is a whole separate world from Lego, and it's the same perhaps with the Technic. That's a different. There's a group of people that they're only going to build with that. So I can see that. I can see doing something like that. But again, that's I like just having fun. Is that it almost looks like Gear On or something.
Well, it's Bionicle. It's made of all Bionicle parts. Some of these are really old parts right here.
Yeah.
That I have.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a big Galador following out there.
Unless you're talking about conventions, I haven't heard any myself, but I do know with Bionicle, the Japanese market here is really big, or at least the conventions I have been to are really big on these Bionicles. So you'll see samurai warriors that are 1 meter tall, or sorry, it's a little over 3 feet tall, that are made strictly out of Bionicle parts. And they're fantastic what they do there. For me, this is my little Godzilla, if you would.
Okay.
That's attacking my little Ninjago installation over here.
Yeah.
So, if I can get him to stand. Oh no, he's fallen. Oh well. The Ninjago characters have all taken him down. Okay. So what would you say are the main reasons your current customers keep coming back?
I don't get as many repeats as I used to, but the ones I think people like good service. And I think that even though I'm a small seller, I think that's the one thing that I've always given people is fast service that's and accurate and things like that. I know there's people. There's probably it's like when I place an order, I'm like, okay, where's my invoice? I'm waiting on my invoice. Can't wait to get my invoice. I want my invoice. A day goes by, I'm like, where's my invoice? It's like most all sellers, they'll invoice you within 24 hours, even though technically by Bricklink rules, it could take up to 3 days. And it's like, yeah, I'd rather be buying from somebody that's going to invoice me quickly, and then as soon as I pay, they're going to ship it as soon as possible. And that's what I try to give to my customers, and that's the ones that came back. In fact, Bricks for Chris, back when he was building his mocks, and he was a newbie when he started, and he's discovered all of us on YouTube, and he was buying from me. He had placed like 30 orders in my store. And it's like he always came back to me. He's like, usually I got the stuff the next day. And so I'd place an order, and the next day I would get it. He's like, how did you do that? Well, he lived in Tennessee, and I'm in Georgia, so it's like back then first class mail would make it in a day. But so he liked that I had the fast service. That's why he came back. Another guy that lives in California. I think he's strictly a buyer. He's got over 10,000 feedback now. He's placed over 30 orders in my store, and it's usually for sealed, rare, or discontinued items. And actually talked to a guy. Somebody at a convention one time asked me, "Have you ever had somebody, this guy, buy from you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's placed a bunch of orders, and it's usually very expensive stuff. I think I would be willing, with the level that his feedback is, that he's bought from just about every big seller in the United States, and usually sealed, discontinued items. And I was like, I always wonder what he's done with all that. He's bought a lot. And he's never bought in quantity either. It's usually one of this, one of this, one of that. Not 10 of this. Usually, it's like he's trying to collect every set that's ever been made or something. I don't know.
Well, it'd be pretty cool if he was opening up a museum somewhere.
It could be. I mean, he has bought some really yes, just the stuff he's bought for me. I know he's got some cool stuff, and I wish, that's one thing I wish you could see what other people buy, but you can't do that. Like on eBay, when you look at somebody's feedback, you can see what they bought if it's in the last 90 days or something, and it's like, that'd be neat. I'd like to see what he's been buying.
Okay. Can you share what a typical day in the life of a Bricklink store would be like? What would you say is the most important part of that day?
Well, since my wife helps me, I can talk about it from that perspective, I guess, because basically I don't do anything other than wait for orders to come. And I usually do it on my phone. And if the guy's watching, it's in Australia, I accidentally, his shipping was supposed to be like $2 and something. I actually put 200 and something for the shipping. And because I was doing it on my phone, I didn't catch that I had sent it for that much. And then she's like, that Australia order hasn't paid yet. And so I went and looked at it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I charged him like 200 for shipping. It was like $8 order. So I sent him the correct invoice, and I apologized. I said I had a typo in that first invoice. So basically that's my day, waiting for orders, whether I'm at work or anywhere. I could be anywhere because I do everything from my phone. I invoice the order. I've done it so much that I don't even need to go look at the shipping calculators usually, especially now that there's pretty much a set price between certain amounts. I can pretty much guess what the shipping is going to be, and if I'm going to guess, I guess low. If I get the big orders, then I'll go look at the shipping calculators and figure it. But then it's just picking orders, and usually at the level we're at, that's not a lot of time. I mean, if I get 5 orders in a day, there's probably going to be 30 minutes of work. So depending on what your level of your store is, if you're dealing with a massive quantity, you could be picking orders all day. I think we do enough work on the front end. So I think that's where most of the time is spent with my store, is parting out the sets. And like I told you before, it's like I got probably about 500 sets right behind the computer here, sitting on my table where there should be a Lego city. But instead, it's a bunch of sealed sets that I need to part out or sell as a sealed set, and I just don't feel like parting them out right now. That's where most of the time. That's where most of the time will be spent. So one day, I'll get the kids and we'll part out a bunch of them and fill those empty drawers up. But usually, just the actual, once you got everything in there, it doesn't take. I mean, you can do everything in a matter of minutes, depending on the size of the order. So, but I'm a small store.
All right. So now that the Lego movie has come out, Batman movie has come out, did you do anything to prepare for the potential sales boom?
No, did not. Did not buy multiples of anything other than the items that I could get for free or the CMFs, and that was only so I could get one of every. In fact, once I got one of every CMF from the series, I stopped buying them. So, yeah, I did not service my customers well with the Lego Batman movie. There are no items in my store related to the Lego Batman movie. Everything that I bought related to the Lego Batman movie was for me, but that too is kind of a shift because I've moved away from actively looking for things to add to my inventory because I got all that mess back there that needs to be in my inventory. So I can
So
get that
I
down.
presume that also means that for the Ninjago movie that's coming out soon, or even Lego Movie 2 that'll be coming out, you're not really looking forward to doing anything special to prepare for those.
Yeah, and that would be good for sellers to do. But for me personally, I won't be. Yeah, I won't be one of those buying a bunch of things so that you can people that maybe like live where you are at that may not have access to certain things will get. I just anything I buy related to that would be for my personal collection.
Okay. Now, you've mentioned how you started with eBay and then Bricklink. What avenues would you consider to be the best place, the best marketplace to resell Lego? And what would you say are the pros and cons of each?
I think for beginners, eBay is the easiest, and but it's so fee intensive that it's. I don't think that's something you can. That's why I like Bricklink. The fees aren't as much on Bricklink, but it's hard for somebody that's never sold uh, to deal with Bricklink and dealing with the invoicing and keeping track of your inventory. But I think eBay is a great starting point for people. Um, the stuff doesn't seem to sell as much on on eBay like it did in the past, though. But obviously, there's people that have found a niche there with eBay. But as far as Lego, sorry, hold on. Yeah, I think the two places that I've totally lost my voice. I may be done here in a minute.
Well, we're actually getting pretty close here to the end. Well,
Right.
what about Amazon? You were talking.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The two places to sell Lego are Bricklink and Amazon, not eBay. I think eBay is great for used lots, but Amazon, I was shocked that the prices that people get for stuff on Amazon. And there's a store that sells damaged box items called Bargain Hunt. We got like 5 of them around my area, and they base their prices off Amazon prices. Now, one time they had a little Cars Lego set that was like a $10 set, and they had it for $88. And I was like, "Why is this $88?" And she said, "That's what the price is on Amazon." I was like, "That's what somebody's asking for it on Amazon. That's not what it's selling for." That's why I wish there was some kind of Amazon price guide where you knew what things really sold for. Because I'll see stuff that's a you'll see an Emerald Knight on there for $700 or $800 or something, way more than what it's selling for on eBay. And it's like, but people apparently are selling things, especially the minifigures on Amazon, a lot more than they're getting on eBay or Bricklink. So, I, but again, I had an Amazon. I have an Amazon account. I tried selling non-Lego things on there. Never got a single sale. So it's like, and I thought competitive prices, and it's like, it just wasn't a hassle. I didn't want to, it was too much of a hassle for me. And I said, Bricklink, that's my one-stop shop for Lego. So that's where I'm always going to be focused. I still may do some things on eBay, but the people that really want to get serious, I think they do need to look on Amazon as well.
Well, as we've mentioned before, there are different kinds of customers for each marketplace, and for Amazon and eBay, you'll definitely find the soccer moms and the kids on there trying to buy your stuff. In Japan, I notice often the so-called Lego store, at least that's what they call it in Japan, or Amazon Japan website. I would see things that are outrageously priced. I mean, you often know or see Toys R Us, you know they have a huge markup, but it's absolutely ridiculous when I look at the Japan Amazon site, and I would see, for example, one of the past holiday polybags for a little reindeer. You should be able to get that free, but even then, the market price for it was maybe $4 or $5. But they were selling it for $20 or $30 equivalent, and I'm like, whoa! Talk about price gouging.
Yeah, yeah. There's a non-Lego. I have bought a lot of stuff from Japan um, because of my other hobby, and there was one thing I was looking for. Nobody had it on eBay, but the Amazon seller in Japan had it for $437. I found one finally on eBay for 20, which is what it really should have cost. But yeah, you got the one in in Japan for $430. But if nobody else has it, maybe he's hoping he'll get it for that one day.
Well, to me, it's really surprising, but the more surprising part is they actually still have sales, even at
Yeah,
that level of price gouging. So, for Tokyo, especially around Tokyo, you're going to find there are a lot of people who are not poor, and they're like, they'll buy it.
yeah.
That's the really surprising part. Especially around Christmas, I'll see wrapping paper. In the States, you might pay $2 or $3 for a roll of wrapping paper, but here it's outrageously priced. For example, I can get a Disney princess, it's actual Disney princess wrapping paper. I would buy it in the States for $5 to $10 a roll, and because it's branded with Disney brand and everything, I could resell that same roll for $60 equivalent on Amazon here.
Wow. That's crazy. It's wrapping paper. I don't wrap my wrapping paper. So I'm just giving you this wrapping paper that's worth $60.
Right. That's the outrageous part in my eyes. Yeah. But now that I've said it on YouTube, it's going to get flooded. Oh, well.
Yeah. It can cause the price to go up even more.
That, or actually the market gets flooded and everyone realizes how cheap it really should be.
Yeah.
So, okay. Where do you see your store in the next 3 to 5 years?
You're not going to like this answer, but actually in 5 years, I'd like to see my store closed. I think that I would like to get to the point where I wasn't selling regularly, but realistically, I'll probably always be selling. Just I don't, and I've done this in the past where I'll open my store for a couple of months, then I'll close it, then I'll open it, and that's a bad practice because people just get tired. They're like, "Oh, your store's closed," and they stop looking, and then even when you're open, they don't want to go to it because he'll just close it again. So that's the dilemma I have because there are time periods of the year that I don't want to have my store open, where I just don't have time to deal with orders. My wife doesn't have time to deal with them. So I would like to, I may, if I can get to that point where I retire from my regular job and then I can focus on this, get a lot of this stuff that's over there sold, get everything downsized a lot, then I could see me personally in 5 years or so where I'm not even regularly doing Bricklink. I just have other things I really want to do right now, but I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this. I've enjoyed building. This has helped me build my collection. I was doing an inventory of some of my sets that I've been trying to collect. Now I've actually gotten close to where I almost have all the sets that I want. The only things now would be the new stuff. So like I almost have all the vintage. There are a few super rare ones that I may never get, but like with the trains and some of the town sets that I collect, I've almost got all of them. That's how my store came about, is I was buying stuff so I could fund my collection. And now once I've got everything, the only thing the store would be for is for the new stuff that comes out. And then maybe I could fund that still, but I just kind of want to get away from it, I think.
Well, that's interesting. Up until now, I've never considered really discussing much about an exit strategy because the assumption up until this point has always been you're more or less going to keep your store open forever. But then you're bringing up a great topic here where you really do need to think about your exit strategy at some point. do you want to keep it open forever, or at some point do you want to maybe shift the reins to someone else who wants to buy the store, or just simply shut it down because you've obtained your original goal?
It's like I've seen people much younger than me close their store or sell their store because they'd reached their goal. I look at it this way, and I'm older than probably a lot of this fairly regularly. If you work, anybody that works, at some point there's that possibility, hopefully, of retiring. People want to retire. Um, I would like to retire at an age that is younger than the normal retirement age here in the U.S. So if I'm doing Bricklink around the clock after I retire from my regular job, it's not like I retired. I'm still working. If I was going to be doing something after work, it would probably be something like YouTube, something that's still takes a lot of work to do it effectively, but is not as demanding and monotonous as running a store. And so that I'm almost 50, so it's like I don't want to be picking orders for the next 20 years. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll always be doing stuff with Lego, and I'll probably always have times that I need to sell something, but I don't want to, with a business, any business, what they do, they start the business, you want to keep growing, 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 growing. That's what businesses do. They grow. Nobody wants to start a business and just, okay, this is it, unless that's all you need to live off of. So I'm not that ambitious that I'm not looking to become a millionaire from my Lego collection. I'm not looking at it to be something that I do forever by any means as far as selling. So I do need to have a plan where I can downsize and not worry about having sets that I'm not really interested in my collection.
Okay, so just curious. Up until the point where you decide you may have your exit strategy, what would you say is the ideal inventory amount for your store?
That's a good question. That is a very good question because your inventory size does have a correlation to the amount of sales that you have. And it's going to vary for different people. I've been keeping my inventory around 250,000 parts or different items. I think there's a few sets in there, smaller sets, but that gets me where I have a few sales each week. And I know that if I add stuff, it'll go up. If I keep letting stuff sell and don't add anything, the amount of sales will go down. But I like that level. I remember when I first got over 100,000. That's when I finally started getting, like, every week I was getting orders. Used to it'd be random with the orders, and so when you get in the six figures with your inventory, that's when you pretty much have something that's you can start seeing it being sustainable and having a regular side income on that. I think you need to have seven figures in your inventory if you want to do something that you can live off of.
Yeah, I think Clutch said something to the effect that you would need at least 2.5 million parts before he could justify really cutting him a check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you're saying, at 2.5 million parts, that you would be ensuring a certain number of customers and size orders.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, he's got a massive inventory, and it's less than 700,000 pieces.
Yeah. Well, I've been contributing to that. I think it's less than 600 now.
You've been making it hard for him to grow his inventory. Yeah. But when you look at it, it's massive. So can you imagine having, to get to 2.5 million, that's like, what, almost four times as much as what he has now. And that's a lot of parts, and you would definitely see the sales. And having the pricing structure that he has, that would really help. You could live off of that, I think. But
Okay.
I think for the hobby seller, it's you probably would, if you don't have the time to deal with the orders, if it's like something you want to do part time and just kind of supplemental things to supplement your hobby, you gotta probably be under 100,000 because I could not do my store could not be open right now if my wife didn't pick the orders, because what would happen is I would come home and that's what I'd have to do. I wouldn't have time to do any YouTube videos. I wouldn't have time to talk to you right now. I would have had to pick those orders. But yesterday I was doing YouTube videos while she was picking those 5 orders. She had 2 more today that she picked, and she takes them to the post office. So um, it's a good level for me. The 250,000 parts is a good level.
All right. So how do you see YouTube in regard to your Lego business?
That's another very good question. I think I should have had a better strategy of building my business model around YouTube. And it's like I need to really define that. What are my ultimate goals as far as having this business model? Because I would like to. YouTube is something I am trying to make sustainable, where I can retire at a younger age and then focus on doing the videos. I love making the videos. I love making videos. I'm still learning. I'm still not very, very good at it or anything, but I'm starting to find my niche and the things I like. And so to make YouTube sustainable, you got to have something outside of YouTube that's tied to that you can either like promote through YouTube. And I think that's what a lot of the sellers, like you mentioned, like Big B and Brick Stackers is another one, that YouTube is a way for them to, hey, this is what I got in my store. And it's a way to draw traction to their store. And even when I was regular at mentioning my store, I got a lot of sales from people from YouTube that I wouldn't have got otherwise. So it's a good strategy to have. But because of what I'm trying to do, I'm actually getting away from drawing people's attention to links away from YouTube, because that's something YouTube doesn't like. They want everybody to stay on the platform. So I'm actually getting away from mentioning that I have Instagram or Facebook or even a Bricklink store. Sometimes I probably need to get away from mentioning that because I want to keep traffic on that platform. But then where are you going to get other streams of revenue? Because you can't live off of AdSense. You got to have something you're either selling or people are buying. And I think with something that what you're doing is probably something I should have done. I know I talked to Clutch about this 2 years ago, but having some kind of tutorial for people opening a Bricklink store, a book, a really good book, ebook like what you're doing. That's something I should have thought of, but I'm probably not. I will probably never make one of those, and that's why I'm happy to contribute and give you my thoughts here. And I'm really interested to see how it turns out, because that's to make anything with YouTube sustainable. You got to have something, like you got to be selling an ebook. You got to be having some type of merchandise or having some type of sponsorships. Sponsorships is probably where I'll end up hopefully getting. I'm actually getting now where people that are actually sending me stuff that I actually want. I get offers all the time for me to review stuff, and a lot of it's not appropriate to my channels. And when I say not appropriate, it's not like it's bad. It's like,
Well, it doesn't, like if you're selling Lego, it doesn't make sense to start reviewing things for T-shirts that have nothing to do with Lego on your Lego channel. So yeah, that would not be appropriate.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and that's why I got another channel where I can do those types of things. And then where I'm seeing the real growth is with my train stuff, which I can tie in with Lego. Trains I can tie in with Lego, but I do other things that are totally not Lego related. And so that's where I thought it was a good idea when I started my channel, this BrickTsar channel, that I needed to have a channel that was focused only on Lego. And I think it was the right decision. But sometimes I wonder, because it does limit you in things that you can discuss. And I still get, I will sometimes rant about things. I'll sometimes mention other things in my life. And you get this handful of people that are like, your channel's supposed to be about Lego. Why are you talking about that? And I was like, well, it's affecting me. Like when I talk about some of the things I think about in making a video, or the challenges you have in making a video. I am talking about making Lego videos, but some people, your channel should be about Lego, not about videos. When I'm talking about dealing with people on YouTube, dealing with stupid people on YouTube, it's like, don't talk about that. Talk about Lego. I'm like, well.
So would you say monetizing your YouTube channel is worthy of your time compared to Bricklink sales?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and in 2013 I was in YouTube, I was just posting videos, and they were very bad. In fact, well, the ones I make today are probably still very bad, but there actually got to a point though in 2014 where the time that was invested in making a video was much more valuable than the time invested in parting out sets and looking for these deals. So I've been looking for all these deals and finding great deals and buying massive quantities. A lot of my early hauls are massive quantities of sets. And after a while, I was like, oh, I'm doing better with YouTube than I am with Bricklink. I should focus more on YouTube. And so then I started focusing more on growing YouTube than doing Bricklink. That's it. I'm better off if I spend my day making 4 or 5 videos and then scheduling those through the week, that's better spent than parting out sets. And at the time it was. I mean, but with the Lego content, you gotta adjust with the changes with YouTube. And so I'm still trying to find what direction I need to go. I still like doing the same things that I like doing and talking about, and I always want to do that. But it's like some of the things we talked about before. What YouTube ends up promoting sometimes isn't necessarily the things that you want to do. And so I never want to become the person that's doing things because that is what's going to be popular.
Sure, of course, we don't want to promote knee-jerk reactions or anything like that. We want to have a mind or an eye to the long view, and things that are respectable that people will come back and say a year or two from now, it's like, yeah, okay, cool, and be remembered in that sense. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you there that we want to continue doing that. So from a marketing perspective, does it make sense to share haul and swoop videos on YouTube?
This is the good question. I tell you what, because I often wonder what the person that buys from you would think. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he just got this for that price, and then he sold it to me for this. Like if you're not so much the pieces, but if you're buying the sets and then you're turning around and selling them, but it's like I think everybody knows. I mean, in the end, and I tell you, this is the thing about the haul videos. I never intended to do massive amounts of haul videos. I was in 2012, before I started BrickTsar, I was experimenting with different types of videos that I thought I wanted to do. And then I discovered that the videos that were getting views were the unboxings. And so I started BrickTsar. I did a few reviews or poorly made animations. Then I did a haul. It got all the views. And so I was like, oh. And I thought, this is so dumb. I mean, why are people watching this? And then but sure enough, that's what sustained my channel in the beginning, was doing those haul videos. And I'm like, this is not really, at the time, it wasn't really what I wanted to do, especially buying the new sets. I like doing the hauls of the vintage stuff, or the stuff I get from Bricklink, because that's exciting to me, and I can get into that. But If I go and I bought 20 copies of something, I do a haul. Like you go look. I even joke sometimes, like BrickTsar did a haul. His haul is when the Lego Batman movie, or no, it was when the Brickheads came out. His package, or he didn't. He went to the store. He went to the store. I got mine in the mail. We bought exactly the same thing. And I said, there's going to be a lot of people that bought, we bought one of each of the Brickheads, and then you got the free item. There's something like that, and it's like, yeah, it does. I don't know why it's so entertaining to people. I don't know why those are the videos that get promoted. But that's why people do them, and that's why I keep doing them. But sometimes I've thought maybe I shouldn't do hauls anymore. I don't know.
I wonder if there's any correlation between watching haul videos and watching videos about houses of the rich and famous.
It could be. It could be. And then I've had this discussion with other people. It's like, am I sending the wrong message to people? Because I think sometimes the people that see these videos, they don't see the selling part of it. And it's like I actually had that. I think you've seen them. The Pablo. It's the picking a Bricklink Lego order. I said, oh, let's do the reverse of the haul. Let's do the selling, because I was getting all the, why are you buying 20 of this or 50 of that or 10 of that? Why you only need one? And they said, well, I want to show the other side of it, because all the people were seeing is everything coming in. They weren't seeing the stuff going out, but nobody watched those. Nobody hardly watches those. And I don't blame them, because they're not very good videos, but it's like, to me, it's the same thing as a haul. You just, instead of bringing it in, you're sending it away.
Yeah, I think there is a correlation there. It's just like people don't want to know how that rich person went through all the work and effort to earn the money to buy that fancy house. They just want to see the house and dream about being there. They don't want to go through the effort and understand what it took to get to that point.
Yeah, they say you're lucky. That's what they say.
Right.
All right. You know what? I'm
Okay.
here in a minute.
Say again?
I'm going to need to go pretty soon.
Okay. I just have 3 more questions exactly.
Okay.
Can you spare time?
Sure.
Okay. If you have to run, then I understand. But I was just curious, how do you deal with negative feedback from those type of swoop videos?
I block those channels that do that. I guess, are you referring to the stuff that's recently happened?
Well, in general, I don't imagine everyone has positive ideas or comments about haul videos.
Yeah, I did get it on some of the early videos. Like I said, the comments about, and I think there were legitimate questions from people, because they didn't understand why somebody would buy even more than one of a particular item. And then I would usually just respond to them. But then it was rarely did you get like the negative feedback where they just kept, sometimes, you explain something, the person would come back with something else negative. And then you explain that, and they come back, and then you're, oh, they're just trolling me. They're not really interested in seeing my side of it. And then it's, okay, I know how to deal with this. I'll just hide their comments so I don't have to see them anymore.
Okay.
That's the best way.
Just trying to minimize the amount of time you have to deal with them. Okay, that's a fair point. So in the interest of time, I'm just kind of speed through here a little bit faster. What other ventures, if any, are you running right now? And you alluded to having other hobbies. And the reason I ask this type of question is, unless you're focused 100%, like, say, someone like Clutches, it's really hard to really devote all that effort necessary to keep your store growing.
Yeah, and with any venture, you can get burned out, or you can just lose the desire you have. Even with YouTube's very hard, and the way the algorithm is, you pretty much got to do stuff every day to keep growing, because all videos now, they have a 48-hour cycle. They're going to get most of their views in the first 48 hours. So guess what? You got to make another video, unless you get something that happens to catch on and goes evergreen. But I'm having, and There's another, my other channel that we do the trains. When I do a live stream on that channel versus when I do a live stream on my BrickTsar channel, it's kind of funny because there's so many more people to get on it. It's actually kind of like it's almost like you get a rush of adrenaline because there's so much commenting going on and so many people asking questions and making suggestions. It's really a lot of fun, and I wish I had more time to invest in that. So that's why the Lego City has been kind of put on hold. I do have a idea. I have a series that I started, but I want to get it and have everything in studio wise set up to do it the right way. I don't know if you've noticed, I changed my channel avatar, and thought about it a long time. But I want to approach some things or have a series on my channel that is about that time period in my life and before.
Now that would be interesting.
So that's what I'm
nice
working.
Story around that.
Yeah, that's what I'm working towards with BrickTsar. It's going to be about things made before 1978, and then my other YouTube endeavors will be around trains. I'm going to be doing a lot more even with trains. I got so much. It's just a matter of having the time to do everything. The trains take a long time to set up and to film and to edit and get everything just right. And but that's what I'm going to be doing with trains.
So looking forward, what fears could you share about running your Lego business?
One of the fears we had, and I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, is once I started the YouTube world, I changed my address. So, like before when you'd ship stuff, people would know basically where you live. So I changed my address because I didn't want, that to be known. But I don't really have any fears about Lego. My wife said, "What would you do if a tornado came through or the house burned down?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd be sad. I'd be devastated in a way, but in the end, it's like the only thing that matters is your life. All this, it doesn't. I can tell you from personal experience, having more Lego doesn't make you more happy. So,
Sounds like another phrase, having more money.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's true. It's never not been true, but I think more people need to realize. You know what? Probably I should do a video on that because there's never the problem with Lego or with any collection. It's never enough. And as long as you have the resources to buy more, people buy more, and it's like it never ends. And I want to learn to have that balance where that's it. That's all I need. I'm happy with this. Because when I was a kid, I didn't have a choice. I had what I had, and that was all you were going to get. But I was happy. And it's like, maybe that's where I can do something on that in the future.
Well, that's interesting. You mentioned briefly about maybe a fear of losing your collection, and but ultimately being happy that you're still able to enjoy life with your family. So that's a valid point. Be it through natural disaster or theft or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, at this point, we've come to the end of the questions. Would you have anything you would like to add as advice to potential Bricklink sellers?
Always, 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 when you buy stuff, make sure you like it. That's the number one thing. Never buy anything in any collection or hobby that you personally don't like yourself. You'll never go wrong that way. Because if you buy stuff that you don't necessarily like and then you have a hard time selling it, you're not going to be very happy. So collect what you love and love what you collect. Same with your selling. Love what you sell. sometimes it's hard to sell what you love, but that's my advice.
That sounds like a different phrase that comes to mind. It went something on the lines, love what you do what you love.
Yeah, something like that.
Something I would hear from entrepreneurs say to each other often. Okay, well, that's
If you love what you do, you'll always be happy. That's why it's like people that have jobs that they love, they enjoy going to work. But if you got a job you don't like going to, you're not going to have the same joy, even though you may work less hard than other people. So the same with like, that's why I always said it, the couple of videos we've done now is that you got to like Lego really before you start trying to sell it.
And I completely agree with you. And it's great advice. And I think going forward, we should definitely highlight that more strongly with any other potential Bricklink or even Lego sellers for that matter. Well, at this point, we've come to, I think, an hour and a half now at this point. I want to say thank you, Joseph, for spending time with me on this project. I'm sure if I have other questions, I'll email them to you. But I really do appreciate the time you have taken out of your day to spend with me here.
Thank you very much, Richie, for having me on. I look forward to seeing how you do with this book, and I'm glad to give you a little bit different perspective, perhaps, than the others. But it's a great community of sellers on Bricklink. I have a lot of respect for the people that put a lot of time in this, and we've learned a lot. And I'm glad you picked the right person with the name with this clutch, because he's done so much to educate a lot of us and help us to be more efficient in what we do. And that's why I'm able to do what I'm on now, is because things I've learned from him and adding to what I've already figured out on my own. So I really appreciate it. Glad to help.
Well, awesome. So going forward, I'm going to try to get other sellers who have an online presence to have a conversation with me. I've tried to reach out to Big B, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I don't have any other scheduled Bricklink sellers coming up. So if I have any come up, maybe we'll schedule the next show, probably next month, probably toward middle or end of April. But I do hope to see everyone online in future streams. So until then, I thank you for your time and hope you see you in the future.